It is Tuesday, November 1st, 2016. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. If you could all rise and please pledge our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a quick review of the agenda. We have meeting minutes, a couple sets of meeting minutes to approve. Under invited guests, we have a little bit of recognition under 3.1. We have a cemetery commission election under 3.2. We have a capital budget presentation, water sewer enterprise fund given from our DPW director, and then we have a public hearing with respect to a possible dangerous dog at 6:30. Under recognition, do we have anything under recognition?
No, sir.
Okay. We have the manager's report under discussion items. 6.1, Men's Club will, as requested, to again hold the Ice Out Challenge on Pratt Pond. We'll be discussing that. We will be discussing the motions on the special town meeting. We'll be discussing OPEB benefit report. We will have further discussions if needed on the street sign requests. We have a request from Nipmuc on a December 10th road race, and we have a request for some per diem paramedic appointments. Under new business, there's only one item. I was speaking to the town manager with respect to new business. It would be to identify a budget calendar moving forward. Correspondences are according, and then we will be going to executive session, two different executive sessions, one under Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A1, and then the other one will be under Chapter 30A, Section 21, exception number 6. We will we will adjourn out of executive session, go back into open session only for meetings, only for the purpose of adjournment. So, did I miss anything?
No, sir.
All right, so with that said, we have meeting minutes to approve, please.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written from October 18th.
Second that.
Please show that as unanimous action of the board.
I make a motion to accept the executive session meetings from October 18th as written.
Second that.
Please show that as unanimous action of the board.
I make a motion we accept the minutes from October 24th as written.
Second that motion.
And please show that as unanimous action of the board. Thank you. Okay, under 3.1, if we could have Mr. Walter Hopkins please come forward and have a seat. If I could ask the board to please stand. For those who don't know, in front of me stands a good friend and a loyal employee to the town of Upton. In front of us is Walter Hopkins, who served as plumbing inspector for, hard for me to say, 51 years. And I think if Walter had his way, he would still continue the job as he's done so well. So with that, it is truly my pleasure and my honor to read this proclamation. Whereas, upon the occasion of his retirement in the town of Upton, on October 31st, 2016, the Board of Selectmen wishes to express its sincere appreciation for Walter Hopkins for his loyal and dedicated service to the town of Upton and the citizens of Upton. And whereas Mr. Hopkins has served the residents of the town of Upton as a dedicated employee since 1965 and has seen the town grow from a small municipality of 3,200 residents to a town of over 7,600 residents today. And whereas, during his tenure as plumbing and gas inspector, Mr. Hopkins has devoted countless of hours to the town of Upton and the residents of Upton, and has provided sound experience and judgment while serving the community. And whereas, Mr. Hopkins has lived in the town of Upton his entire life and was owner of Walter Hopkins & Son Plumbing for many years, and has served on the Water Sewer Commission with dedication and professionalism. And whereas Mr. Hopkins' passion for community service to the citizens of Upton has endeared him to many in the area. And whereas Mr. Hopkins has devoted his time, energy, and talents to the town of Upton in serving with unfailing integrity, dignity, thoughtful reflection, and his career services as a positive example to all who serve the public. And whereas the town of Upton and the citizens of Upton are most grateful for the many contributions that Walter has made during his long career in public service. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Board of Selectmen extends to Mr. Walter Hopkins best wishes for many years of good health, happiness during his retirement and all future endeavors.
The family should be okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. No, it isn't.
Does he have Does he?
Jim's. Oh.
Okay, one more.
Thank you. Paul, thank you very much.
She heard it too. You're right. Very nice. Very, very nice. Walter, I've got a problem at my house, so it's just... No, only kidding.
If that's not a true sign of dedication, then I truly don't know what is. So, thank you. Okay, item 3.2. We have a cemetery commission election. We have the cemetery commissioners, or cemetery commissioner in front of us? Yes, we do. Good evening, gentlemen. For the record, we have a vacancy currently in the cemetery commission, and we have an individual who has submitted an application to fill that vacancy. So, for the record, you are posted?
We are posted.
And you are open? Your meeting is officially, your meeting is officially open? Okay. Okay. So with that said, I would entertain nominations for the appointment of the vacant position of cemetery commissioners.
I would therefore like to nominate William L. Palmer, current resident of Upton, to the position of cemetery commissioner for a period of 5 years. Oh, no, I'm sorry, for a period of 1 year.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I just ask for clarification? You nominated, you voted to elect for 1 year. Do you mean till term expire May?
I mean exactly that.
Okay, thank you. A friendly amendment to your motion? Your nomination?
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other nominations? Seeing none, I officially close nominations. So in front of us, we have a nomination and a second for William L. Palmer to hold position of cemetery commissioner until the term expires in May of 2017. 17, yes. I will poll the respective boards.
Aye.
Aye.
Jim Roche, aye. Gary Doherty, aye. Okay. Please show that unanimous in action. Thank you, Mr. Palmer, for your dedication to the cemetery commissioners. You are going to be part of a great group.
Just in case he's watching tonight, we have a meeting Friday night at 4 o'clock.
Very good. Thank you.
He needs to get sworn in.
Yes, you need to get, yeah, Mr. Palmer, you need to come down and see the town clerk and get sworn in, please. Thank you. Okay, the next item we have is the capital budget presentation, Public Works Water Sewer Enterprise Fund. Please. Good evening, Mr. Roy.
Which letter?
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening, Scott.
Good evening. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come up and present our budget, capital budget. Okay. Let me know when you guys are ready.
It's probably easiest to start with just this spreadsheet that shows the last, in section 1, the last page, which shows water and sewer in summary. It's the very end of section 1, just before tab 2.
So I'm going to start with the wastewater.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to come up and present our budget to you guys. Okay, first off, I wanted to say there is an increase from what we had last year. As you know, last year we appropriated $40,000. This year's request is for $82,000. That request is $15,000 for I&I. I&I is an acronym for inflow and infiltration. $12,000 for the replacement of a grinder down at Station Street Pump Station. And then $55,000 for some rehabilitation work at the wastewater treatment facility. That rehabilitation work includes the replacement of the AC units, two AC units on the roof of the building. And then $40,000 for rehabilitation of the clarifier, one of the clarifiers down at the treatment facility. One of the things that we did is to, if you remember last year's wastewater CIP, we had a big request in FY19 for rehabilitation of the facility. One of the things that we did this year, if you remember last year, we had $40,000 that was supposed to be appropriated for FY18 for doing some engineering work, design work in order for the big rehabilitation work that we're going to be doing in FY19. Knowing the staff that we have, these guys work with it every day. Their shop is any engineer we're going to hire to come in and write specifications for any work that we're going to do. We've got the knowledge in-house to be able to spec out all the work that we need to do. So what we've done is we've taken that big request for FY19 and spread it out over the next 5 years. So we're going to actually start what was going to be engineering work for FY18. We're actually going to do some of the work this year in FY18 and just continue along that path for the next 5 years. And so all we're doing is we're spreading that cost out. So that is it.
It also should make us rate stability easier to achieve by not having to do a large project in any one year. And we'll have to revisit every year and make sure we can stay on track, but our goal was to try to smooth out those costs and get this and still get the work done.
As you know, we're going to be peeling some debt off in the next couple of years, so, you know, we're going to probably mix some things up as far as financing, through debt or a combination of debt.
Well, we're going to be, because we're also going to be getting quite a bit of new growth
Correct.
onto the system too, so we need to maintain the same level of growth and
Correct.
and repairs, so that this is a good thing. This is all good news.
Fully agree.
Okay, any questions with respect to?
We were just talking before the meeting, the water enterprise I know has come in higher. The sewer is probably about even at this point at the funding level, so there's nothing to draw from there to burden additional costs. So we're looking at this out of taxation, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think it can come out of the retained earnings because they're up significantly.
In sewer?
In sewer, yeah. We just received the notice today, they're just under 500,000. Last year, they were about 240. Mostly it's because of the connection fees that we have received over the last year. So I think 82,000 can easily be absorbed in next year's budget without a rate increase.
Well, time is money, so I guess the question asked is, if you've got a 5-year plan, you can do it in 3, and you have an excess in retained earnings, I would be more comfortable probably approaching that to start the infrastructure upgrades that you want and move that 5-year timeline, because when you get to year year 6, you start to pick up, you're looking at 3-bay garage, you're looking at other vehicle costs and so forth. So if you can ease the burden on those now, so that might be something to entertain. You know, we don't want to expend all the retained earnings, but we certainly don't want to let it amass and then be going after taxation to cover some of the difference.
I agree. Well, if you look at FY20, though, we've got a pretty big bump up over there, and that's for an I&I project. What we're looking to do, right now, we're appropriating $15,000 a year for the I&I. That's all investigation work, so I'm looking at FY20 to actually doing some construction, taking all that investigation work.
I think when we get into the budget
Pipe.
process and the rate setting, I think the auditor said that a rule of thumb for our retained earnings should be about 20 to 25% of our annual budget. So when we look at what that number needs to be and what these will cost, projected over time, you're right, we may be able to move something up a year or two and smooth out those, especially if we have growth coming and other connection fees coming in from another project that will help offset future work.
Sure, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out, but the Josiah Drive pump at $30,000, you might be able to do it in year 1.
I agree, Bob.
Rather than move it to year 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. I mean, you know, obviously that's an infrastructure need that's necessary anyway, so why delay it if you have the retained earnings, obviously, if they're there. That's my only comment. Everything seems to be the plan. I've gone to the back where you've covered it all.
I agree. Okay.
So, yeah, okay.
Gary?
No,
Okay. All right, we're going to go to the water.
Yep.
You shared too. Okay, sorry.
So we're on water now. Bottom of the same page.
Yes. All right, I just wanted to remind everybody, because I'm on TV, thank everybody first off for doing a good job with water conservation. As you know, we had restrictions in place and we enforced it. We're fortunate in the fact that we didn't have to fine anybody. We issued some warnings. I don't know, like probably 25 warnings we issued. And that was it. Everybody definitely, they cut back on the consumption. Kind of a double-edged sword. I'm not going to get too carried away with this, but we want to be able to sell water because it's how we pay for our projects. But we've also got to be mindful of our responsibilities with the state. So, and what's going on with the drought. All right, anyways, getting into what we're looking to do. It's a big increase from last year. As you know, the biggest part of this increase is preparation for what we're doing with the TIP project. One of the goals we have in the water department, out of the 35 miles of pipe, we've got about 20% of it's AC, asbestos cement pipe. So our goal is to replace all that pipe. In preparing for this TIP project, a good portion of that project actually has AC pipe that we're looking to replace. So it's almost a mile of pipe. We're going to replace from 140 all the way up to the top of the hill over at High Street. So the design is already underway. You guys already know that you funded that portion of what we're doing here. So the construction is for FY18, and that cost estimate right now is for $1,264,000. So that's one item that I've got here on the capital. The second portion is also some replacement of asbestos cement water pipe, 2 locations. One of the things I want to do is we're replacing this pipe as being ahead of the pavement schedule. One of the roads that we've got slotted for next year is to do Brook Street. It's a short road. It's only about 800 feet, but we've got an old AC pipe on that road. So before we go and spend a lot of money, $30,000, $40,000 to rehabilitate the road, it would be foolish not to replace the water main. So that's one of the things we want to do early spring is replace the water main.
There's another section, isn't there?
Yes. So that $320,000 request is for 2 sections, for 2 streets. Brook Street being one of them. The second one is 800 feet of main over on 140 on Milford Street. From Elm Street all the way to where the water main ends over there by the gas station.
Where we just had a couple of,
Exactly.
And the reason
a little bit of ponding down by the gas station.
Yes.
a little bit.
So as you know, you guys have been in town for a long time. It's not the best pipe out there. It's brittle, and it's conducive to breaks. So what we want to do before the state paves that road, which we've heard that they could be rehabbing that road. I heard yesterday, actually, within 3 years, so I'll do that. But what we want to do, beyond the fact that we want to avoid having to repair the water main any hour of the night, we want to be ahead of the game when it comes to the state repaving the road. So that's our request.
I think it's important to note on the TIP project, we have, that project is almost $1.3 million. We have almost $300,000 left from the third wellfield project on West River Street. The project was bonded in advance of building it rather than at the end. So while that's $1,264,000, we're looking to probably only need to finance just under $1 million for that.
I'm sorry. How far is, you said it goes from 140, the intersection of West Upton, up over High Street. Does it go all the way down to the pond, to tap prep?
Water main goes that far, but it turns into cast iron.
Okay, so that should, got
The
it.
AC pipe ends at the intersection.
Got it, okay. Because I thought there was water, yeah.
No, the water, yeah,
Yep.
actually,
Yep,
yes.
okay, sure.
You're right.
Makes sense. No? Logical.
Gary, any questions at all?
Is that about the average price per 800 feet?
Yes.
Do that amount of work? It's expensive.
Those are estimates provided by one of the consultant engineers that we work with.
How many miles of asbestos pipe do you think there's still left in town?
Oh, I said about 20%. It's approximately 7 miles. So we're looking to do almost a mile. It's about 0.8 miles over there on Harvard Ave North, and then
I can just figure out roughly then.
1,600 feet with the 2 other projects. So it's small. It's going to take us some time. And I want to be mindful, too, that we don't want to go too far ahead either. We want to be ahead of the paving schedule. So we're going to try to coordinate replacing water main with what we're doing with the rehabilitation of roads. So.
You can see that's the biggest cost over the years, is continuing to do projects every year that slowly get rid of this pipe
Right.
without raising the rates too much.
All right.
As Jim just alluded to a little while ago, we're going to be adding a lot of customers to it, which is good.
Which is nice. I mean, this is our biggest new growth we've had in many years. Yeah, many years. So this is all good news.
One of the things I wanted to say too with, I know we want to expand the system, but before we can rehab it, before we can expand, we want to rehab it again, so.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Quick question, a little side note, but we're talking about water.
Sure.
I know the last time you came in, we were talking about, the water shut-off policy and so on and so forth, and we had discussed there was still some customers that we still need to get in and either inspect or change their water meter. Is that still
The number's still the same as the last time.
still a concern?
I was just asking Scott this yesterday, if we've been able to knock that number down, and it turns now. These are people that we've sent them several notices with no response back to us.
Okay. Again, if you're watching, please, work with the town of Upton, we want to work with you.
Right.
We do not want to work against you, we want to work with you.
Right.
So if you're watching, please work with us on this. We would hate to take it to the next level.
Right.
So,
Yeah, not only did we send letters, but we actually worked overtime, and the guys weren't calling the weekends. So.
Yes.
So, okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, sir.
No? Well satisfied, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Scott, thank you. Vinnie, thank you, as always.
Can't believe that.
I'm just texting him.
Okay, it is not quite 6:30 yet, so we will go on to the
Okay. You want to table it? Okay.
we'll go on to the town manager report, please.
Sure. Early voting has been very well received here in Upton. I don't have a figure as of just the time of the meeting, but earlier today we had over 1,000 voters, which is over 20%. So, and I've noticed a good stream of people coming in tonight. So I think by Friday at 2 o'clock is the end of early voting. We may make 30%, so that's exciting. We'll definitely have a different dynamic on election day next week. gotten some unfortunately early and not great news about the state budget. As you know, the governor can make cuts, what are typically called 9C cuts in the budget, and he has started to do that, and that has affected Upton in the area of a small grant we get for the Council on Aging, a formula grant based on a dollar factor per population of seniors. It's going to go down by $1,200 back to the FY16 amount. That's not a big number for us, it's manageable, but I think it's an early indication that when come December, actually next month, it's hard to believe it's already close to the end of the year, there may be some other cuts that we'll see, so I think we just need to be aware of that. Mr. Roy and I are working on getting a feasibility study RFP out the door to bring in a consultant to start to study what future needs we may have to make some adjustments to the DPW facility for it to be in good stead for us for the next 20 years, so we'll be starting that process and we'll keep you apprised of that. We did turn in a grant application to the state for the small bridge program. As you know, we couldn't apply for the Fisk Mill Bridge, but we looked at 3 others, and we've decided on the bridge, there's 2 bridges on Fowler Street. The one that's closest to the Orchard Street end of Fowler Street. It's a fairly narrow bridge. It's only limited to 10 tons of weight, and any good size plow truck or definitely a fire truck with water on it would be over that limit, and that could cause us to need to go around in the case of emergency, and certainly has been over the years. We've had fires up that way. So that early estimate with the application was $541,000 for the design and construction to actually widen and make that a more substantial bridge than it is. My suggestion is if we're fortunate to be awarded that grant, that we appropriate the difference of $41,000 to get that whole project moving forward. I think that would be a real win for the town. And I also wanted to let you know that the Department of Transportation will be out here on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Senator Moore will be here with DPW and I. We're going to go take a look at some of the crosswalks here on 140. As you know, we had a letter from a resident who makes a real effort to try to walk safely and sent a letter to the state very concerned that she almost got hit. I've almost been hit, some other employees crossing here at Town Hall. So we're thrilled that we may be looking to have the state pave this road in the next couple of years. But until then, what can we do to try and make some of the crosswalks we have safer, because people just don't stop. So we'll get back to you on what we learn about that. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. With respect to the paving, I see the paving was done over at Two Grocery. It looks fabulous.
Yes.
And what's next over there?
Striping the parking spaces, the 14 spaces, putting in the guardrail along the back. I'm not sure we'll do the plantings this fall. I'm hoping that we'll do some of them if we can find nursery stock still available, at a better price. And then a sign at some point just to indicate what it's there for. So coming along well.
Fantastic. Again, I want to thank our DPW department. Again, I should have done it when the DPW director was here. They did that. I noticed some of that was over there quite a bit when they were over there working, and they did an outstanding job, with respect to that. So
We're cautiously optimistic it'll be under budget.
fantastic. It's always good to hear.
Yes.
It's always good to hear. So, okay. It is 6:30. At 6:30, we have posted a public hearing with respect to discuss a dangerous dog that is owned by Mr. Sullivan. I will read the notice and then open up the hearing. On October 24th, 2016, to Mr. Thomas Sullivan, 98 Glenview Street, Upton, Mass. 01568, notice of a dangerous or nuisance dog hearing. Mr. Sullivan, on Tuesday, November 1st, 2016, at 6:30 p.m. in the town of Upton, Town Hall, room 203, located at 1 Main Street, Upton, Mass. The Board of Selectmen, acting as the hearing authority, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, will hold a public hearing to determine whether the dog owned and/or kept by you in the town of Upton is a nuisance or dangerous dog, as those terms are defined in said statute. The notice is based in part on 2 written complaints alleging that on or about February 6, 2016 and September 4, 2016, your dog was not under your control and without justification attacked 2 persons causing physical injury. In accordance with its statutory authority, the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing, which will include an examination of the complainant under oath, and based on the credible evidence and testimony present, it may make such findings in order to concerning the restraint or disposal of said dog as may be deemed necessary. You are invited to attend the hearing. At the time, you may produce any documentations or no witnesses. You may be represented by counsel at your own expense if you so choose. If you have any questions or concerns, you may contact the town manager at 508-529-6901. Signed, Blythe Robinson, Town Manager, retirement copy, Chief Michael Bradley, Mike Moran, Animal Control Officer, and Board of Health. This has been posted accordingly, right, Sandra? And sent accordingly. And you were in receipt of this letter. Okay, so with that said, I will again open up the hearing. This is as the memo stated, a adjudicatory hearing under Mass General Law, Section 157. The process will be, again, I would ask everybody to act civilly. I would ask that all conversations with respect to this dog issue come through the chair, which is myself. I would ask to speak only when recognized. All persons wishing to speak will be heard. I would ask if you speak, please give your name and address. You will be sworn in and when you are giving your statement, and we would ask that you tell the truth and the whole truth. So with that said, I will, the meeting is open up. Represented, Mr. Sullivan, are you represented by counsel? No. You are not, okay. So at this time, I will invite the Animal Control Officer to come up. Please remain standing. Please raise your right hand. The testimony you give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you. Okay, please introduce yourself.
Mike Moran, Upton Animal Control.
Okay. Mr. Moran, if you could tell us the facts relevant to this case as you know them.
On, let's get the ones with 2/6/2015. Yeah, let's make sure I have the date right. No, sorry, 2/6/2016, reported by the police department, dog bite to a jogger. Proceed to 98 Glenview. Spoke to a gentleman there, which got me on the phone, Mr. Sullivan, talked about the dog biting the jogger. Told him I needed a copy of the rabies certificate, licensed. I quarantined the dog for 10 days, like by law. They did produce the rabies certificate and license. Dog was licensed. Talked about, just real quick about the dog. Got away from the person babysitting the house, basically. Had him, got away from him. They said they talked to that person, not a problem. And then on September 4th, 2016, police department called me to Wood Street for a complaint of a dog bite on 98 Glenview again. Went up to the party. It was the same gentleman watching the house. Dog got away from him. I talked to Mr. Sullivan again. Understood, quarantine, license, rabies, all again, the whole thing over again. They had all their documentation. Talked about being the second time biting. there's a problem. The lady got bit good this time. Elbow, side, and buttocks. The dog is a Great Pyrenees, which is a large dog. At this point, I have concern for the public safety on the dog, and we talked about, see if they could find him a home. They've contacted some shelters. They're trying to work on getting a home to get him put that works for him, because it was a rescue dog as it was. But at this moment, I don't think they found a home yet for him. You know, we're a little over 2.5 months later, you know, and she couldn't guarantee, even if they put a kennel in the backyard, somebody walking it from the kennel to the house, 100% guarantee that the dog wouldn't get away, which I understood. She was very good about it. But at this point, you know, the dog is a danger to the public, and we're here, that's what we're here now for.
Okay, thank you. We'll open it up to the board, then open it up to Mr. Sullivan if he has any questions.
The animal control officer's report is directly in sync with the police reports that were filed.
Yeah.
The dates, time, since it's all compatible. At this time, I defer to we here to the party, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay.
Nothing, sir.
Okay, the only question I would have is, in your conversations with Mr. Sullivan, there was no denial that it was their dog?
No, there's no denial. They understand the dog has issues. There's no question. You know, they're at the point, you know, if we do label a dangerous dog, no other town is going to want the dog. You know, at that point, you know, and trying to avoid euthanasia is what's, you know, still a dog. Right. There is somebody to fit it, just you got to find the right person to fit it.
Correct.
You know, that's the tough thing.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any questions for Animal Control Officer Mike Moran? Absolutely. No, you will. I will ask you to come up next, but I didn't know if you had any questions for the Animal Control Officer. Okay. Thank you, Michael, very much. Okay, Mr. Sullivan, if you would, you and any parties you have would like to come up, please. If I could just ask you to please remain standing, just raise your right hand. Is the testimony that you are about to give in this matter the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. Please introduce yourself.
TJ Sullivan, 98 Columbia Street.
Andrea Sullivan.
Okay. Thank you. And again, I just realized this, you know, just for disclosure, Mr. Sullivan does work at my home. He does do the lawn care at my house.
Okay.
So as full disclosure, you know, I just put two and two together, so my apologies for that. But as full disclosure, Mr. Sullivan, under TJ Sullivan, does do all the lawn care, the fertilization at my house and also my father's house on 122 High Street, for disclosure. So, Mr. Sullivan, if you could please tell us facts that is important for us to know.
Okay, I like to defer to my wife. She has a plan.
Well, the first time it happened, actually, he was there.
Yeah, I was there.
The dog was contained on an invisible fence, and he'd never had any previous issues, so we weren't really aware, you know, of his propensity to go through the fence. He'd been on the fence for 1.5 years without a problem. So he was there, so if you want to ask him about the incident, but he broke through the fence and he bit the first jogger. And then the second time, we were both away, and the person who lives at my house taking care of the dog was under his control, and he lost control of him, and he was no longer on the fence, because we weren't allowing that anymore. He was always on leash, but he lost control of him, and he went out and bit the second jogger. So we, you know, that full, you know, agree with the issue. He's got an issue with joggers. He was a rescue dog. I'm a veterinarian, just so you guys know, so I'm very aware of behavior and problems, and he is a rescue, so we weren't really aware of what he was, you know, capable of. He's a very good family dog. He's wonderful with my family, with my children. He doesn't like strangers. We're very careful with him. He goes to doggy daycare program. Actually brought a letter from them regarding his behavior there. If I can enter that. I also brought his trainer, who's here tonight as well, who can talk about his behavior. We've been working on it. We are of the same agreement with Mike that it's probably not the right home for him. We have a lot of people that run by. Yes, he's always on a leash, but I cannot guarantee that something could happen. Nobody can, and that's unreasonable. So I am working on finding him a home. It is a hard task because he has his history, and I want him to go into a place with full disclosure. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but I need it to be the right home because I need nobody to get hurt. So I'm actually working with Great Pyrenees Rescue, the New England group, and 99% likely they're going to take him within the next 2 to 4 weeks. I have a site evaluation meeting with them on November 12th or 13th. We've talked to their board, multiple people, and they're very comfortable that they can place him in a safe home where they have a fenced-in yard and he can be safe. So my interest here tonight is to have you guys give me a little bit more time. I know Mike's been a couple months. It's not an easy task. Shelters are full, he's got a history. I want to be completely honest with people. I work for a humane society. I've spent, we've done a lot of training, we've done a lot of work with him, we've done a lot of behavior evaluations, and I know what he's capable of, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. So my intent is to ask you guys just to give me a little bit more time. I kind of tried to think of a solution that would be safe for our neighbors, and I thought about this. This is called a basket muzzle, and if you put it on, it clasps behind the ears, and obviously it prevents them from biting. So if, God forbid, he slipped out of someone's control, he's actually really good on the leash, and he doesn't pull or anything. He's very well controlled. He is crazy about joggers. So I thought if you would allow me, he could be on this outside, and that way, if God forbid he got loose, he would not hurt anybody until I had time to, kind of find him the right home and send him over to the rescue. So that's basically.
Mrs. Sullivan? Same thing. We understand the situation, and we need a little bit of time to find him a home, so we don't have to put him down, or he doesn't get labeled and then doesn't get to go somewhere else. And that's, we care for the dog, and we'd like to have him a good home. We rescued him, and we'd like to pass him on to someone else who has the ability to take care of him.
Okay. I'll open up to the board.
First thing I want to do is compliment you. It's not often dog hearings. You get people that come in that are reasonable and can separate the emotion from the reality. It's a difficult thing. Personal experience, we had 5 St. Bernards, and the last one, because he was aggressive, we had to make that hard decision. It's not easy. I commend you for your honesty, and I like your idea of the muzzle. The question would be how we restrict that and how we maintain that. Do you have any fencing on the property, or is it pretty much open?
Yeah, it's acre property, yeah.
But he currently doesn't go out unless he's on the leash, so
Yeah,
there's
he's never off lead.
backup. Yeah.
It's never off lead, and he actually is at my work 4 days a week in a fenced-in area in a play group with other dogs. So, he does spend a decent amount of time not at home.
Okay, well, like I say, I appreciate your honesty, and the board hasn't rendered the decision yet, obviously, but based upon your inputs, I think you make a reasonable argument.
Yeah. To kind of talk about what Mr. Fleming said, I'm not taking this lightly at all. I know how the dog becomes a member of the family. It's almost like a kid, so it can be really emotionally attaching. My biggest fear is that the dog slipped out and injured a little kid. Is there any type of insurance? I don't want to see like a little kid get scarred for the rest of his life or something. That's my biggest fear with.
Yeah, of course, and ours too. And I can only tell you that he's wonderful with my children. He's wonderful with little kids. He's suspect with older kids. Once they become adults, we're very careful in the home. He has a very large crate. Whenever we have people in the house that he doesn't know, he's in there are locked up 100% all the time, and we're very careful. And like I said, I'm a veterinarian, I know better, and
Has he
I...
ever slipped out, though? I mean,
He's not yet. I mean, yes, it could, I can't, I wish I could say, if I could tell you 100% I could keep him under control for the rest of his life, I would, but I know I can't. I mean, that's unreasonable.
He's very well behaved, listens extremely well. It's just that jog goes by, that switch turns. I mean, the fence worked wonderful for so long until that one incident, and then
we stopped it immediately.
Yeah.
We were no longer allowed him to be loose ever. And it was just unfortunate we were away, and the person who was taking care of him, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But, he wasn't attached to the leash like he should have been. So he got loose, and it happened again. But, I mean, obviously, I don't want to kill my dog. And so I'm super careful now, and that's why I came up with this idea, to see if that would help you guys be more comfortable with him just for a little bit longer.
Anything else?
no, sir.
For me, this is extremely tough. This is only the second dog hearing that I've done in the 6 years, and this is the first one I've chaired. We would rather deal with other major town issues than deal with a dog issue. This is very tough for all of us to do this. The concern or question I have is I absolutely, and again, I thank you to what Selectman Fleming said, your honesty, you're willing to work, you're working with our animal control officer, and he, again, has spoken, highly about you and says, how, you are willing to work, with him in this whole process. My concern is the intimidation factor of him, even with the muzzle on. If he, it is a he or she, is a he.
Boy, yeah.
If he was to, again, break away, I'm sure the intimidation factor of seeing him coming at you when, the innocent parties are trying to walk on the street or jog on the street, it's going to be tough. And never mind if there's a small child, I'm sure if they jump, on them, that, it could still, render some harm. So that would, I do applaud your willingness to work with the muzzle system and, again, keep him on the leash. And when he broke away on the leash, it wasn't with you, Mr. Sullivan? It was-
We don't know if he broke away, and we really don't think he did.
Oh, okay.
The leash was put down by our friend, and then he had the opportunity to go on his own.
Oh, okay.
He's never broken
We
away.
think it was a stupid mistake. I have to tell you,
He's very well behaved on the leash. There's no
Yes.
tugging, no pulling, no nothing at all. We think the leash was put down to pick up an implement in the yard, and opportunity arose, and a jogger, the timing was horrible. The very first time, like we spoke about, it was the invisible fence. He was perfect on it. And joggers have gone by millions of times, no barking, no nothing. The one-time event. So we learned from that one. And then unfortunately, we didn't learn properly from the second one. We've learned properly now. And
Do you still have the invisible fence there?
it's there, but we
Not
don't,
using it.
we don't trust it. You know what I mean? Because the second, I don't know if he was wearing his collar the second time or not. I
No,
can't
we just-
remember.
We don't
even
use it at
think
all.
about
But
it.
would
yeah.
you entertain, again, using it again as a backup?
Another backup, sure.
Another backup
Turn it
to
back- We
this?
could turn it back on and put his collar back on, sure.
Because did he respond to this invisible fence in the past, or?
For a year and a half, yeah. Yeah.
But we don't, it's the fail-safe versus the leash.
understood.
The fence anymore.
And I mean, I brought his trainer here with me tonight, and also, just from a personal experience, he's a herding dog, a herding guard dog. That's what the breed is, and it's their tendency not to attack. It's actually their tendency to herd and to protect. So what he did with both of these joggers is actually very typical. He comes up from behind you and bites you in the butt. You know what I mean? He's not like a, I'm going to knock you down and come at your throat type of dog. I mean, I know you guys, you're not professionals, but from my point of view, and I'm not just trying to defend my own dog, and the trainer can speak to it if you want more information, but it's very natural for him. So I understand you're worried about him coming at people and kids and knocking them over, but not his tendency.
No,
So, yeah,
and again, I understand that all we can act on
Yes.
is the actions
I know.
that happen and not
Yeah.
truly what the dog's intent.
Yes, yeah,
you
no, I know, I know.
was. And again, we wish we could, we wish we would.
Our intent is to find him a home.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
You know,
We do not
it's-
want to keep him because, like you said, we've got a lot of people that come in the house, and if
We don't want
the
anybody
cage
to get
doesn't
hurt.
work properly, we don't want this to happen anymore.
You had mentioned, one more question if I may, well, you had mentioned that the dog is with you right now 4 days a week.
At work.
What are those hours?
Usually, you know, daytime hours, I leave for work at around 7 a.m. and I'm back at 6 p.m.
And the dog's with you?
Yeah.
those times?
Yeah.
Is that something new, or is that?
Nope, always.
That's always been there?
Yep.
Okay. That's all I have for questions. Mr. Moran, do you have any questions at all?
No, like I said, they're trying to, find a dog home. They're doing very good about things. And we can actually, under the law here, we can actually, I think we should give them 4 more weeks till December 1st, which gives it Thursday. And then when the dog's outside, anytime outside, has to have the muzzle on and no leash no longer than 3 feet. And I say, by one of these two controlling it, I give them 4 weeks to find a home. I said, I just don't want anything else getting bit. I'm scared about,
As a week, so thank you for that.
I mean, they've done the last 2 months, they've done a pretty good job keeping it under control. The muzzle's definitely a good idea, definitely allows us to do it, and give them 4 more weeks at that point.
Okay. Very good. Before I close the evidentiary portion of this hearing, does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. You may go back and have a seat. So with no other testimony need to be heard, I would entertain a motion to close the evidentiary portion of this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to close the evidentiary portion of the hearing.
Second. Please show that as unanimous action of the board. Okay, so the evidentiary portion of the hearing is closed. Now the board will act on 2 issues. Number 1, you will act whether there is truly a violation here, and we will deliberate on that, and what action does the board wish to take, and the actions may be to deem this dog a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog. So, at this time, I would open up deliberation with respect to, is there a violation? I will turn it over to Selectman
Mr.
Fleming.
Chairman, I don't think there's any doubt there's definitely a dangerous complaint relative to Mass General Law 140, Section 157. This is definitely in compliance with the parameters of the law.
Selectman Doherty.
I agree with Mr. Fleming on numbers 1 through 4, that section.
Okay. So I also agree with that, so I don't, do we need a motion on that, or we just?
We do. There's one at the bottom of page 1 of the Copeland page outline.
So I would ask,
Mr. Chairman, I motion that the board adopts the violation under the dangerous complaint under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, and that is based upon the deliberation and the debate from the evidentiary portion heard tonight.
Here's actually
I basically said the same thing.
Second that.
please show that as unanimous action of the board. Okay, so the board has, again, due to the nature in which the complaints came with respect to the 2 bites, that the board has deemed this dog as a dangerous complaint. With that, we have 7 actions that we could take relative to that from the dog. And again, I'll just be very brief with it. The dog can be humanely restrained, the dog may be confined. When removed from the premise, the owner of the dog shall be secured, humanely muzzled, and restrained with a chain. The owner and/or keeper provide proof of document no less than $100,000 insurance. That the owner or keeper provide the licensing authority, animal control officer, with the information of the dog may be identified, including examples of photographs that the dog be altered or that the dog be humanely euthanized. So I would open this up for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, from my position based upon the report of the animal control officer and the owners of the dog, they seem to be responsible and want to work with the town. I would be in favor of keeping the dog restricted to the premises. The only time the dog can leave the premises is under muzzle and leash under Mass General Law with a 300-pound restraint, and that I would further amend that to ask that the animal control officer, and I'm sorry, Mike, does a weekly visit to visit the residents to ensure that there is compliance and the owners are in process on this. I would extend the timeline also to December 1st. I think 4 weeks from today is reasonable. But I think in fairness, where this is not part of a motion, I think in fairness, where the owners being this responsible, need it be that there's another week needed, I don't think we should be so punitive that we would assess a definite date as to a final action, and we all would regret doing that, so.
Would you entertain a friendly amendment to that? As I mentioned, that the owners reenact the invisible fence and...
Yes, absolutely.
And the collar as again, another backup to this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll second the motion and the amendment.
Was it,
Well, I will make the amendment official if everyone's in favor.
I would also be in favor.
Mr. Chairman, I would motion under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, that the board assess the following from a review of our evidentiary and our hearing process, that under the dangerous complaint, that the owners that, under Section 3 or III, that when removed from the premises of the owner or keep, the dog shall be securely and humanely muzzled and restrained with a chain or other tethering device having a minimal tensile strength of 300 pounds and not exceeding 3 feet in length, and that the owner shall have till December 1st to take action for placement of the dog, and that I would also ask that the animal control officer, I won't mandate weekly, but periodically do visitations to ensure compliance. And the invisible fence. Thank you.
Second motion.
One quick question. The 3-foot leash, is that one off the premises or on the premises?
The leash shall not exceed 3 feet in length.
At all times?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, and please show that as unanimous action of the board. Okay. Is there any other action? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we close the hearing.
Second motion.
Show that as unanimous action of the board, the hearing is officially closed. Thank you.
Good luck. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, some challenge, they want to take the motion or the request.
Okay. Very good. I figured that. Again, those are very difficult to do, very, very difficult and very stressful to do. I'm glad that all individuals and parties involved acted accordingly, and thank them all for that. So, under discussion items, under 6.1, the Upton Men's Club requested to hold the Ice Out Challenge on Pratt Pond. I was just informed that the Men's Club has asked that we pass over that motion, or that line item on the agenda for this evening. So, any objection to that?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 6.2, we have on November 15th, the special town meeting. In front of us, we have the motion cards. I believe for the last 2 to 3 meetings, we have discussed the warrant, discussed these motions, and so I think we are ready for print. We printed it. So we're ready to basically, what I'd like to do this evening is just assign who will be reading these motions, if I may, if that's okay, and make sure we're on board. But is there any discussion or any concern that you have with the current motions?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would be comfortable if you just want to assign whichever
Okay.
one at your pleasure.
Very good.
Usually the chairs,
I will do that. I will do that and let
as
you know.
long as there's enough lead time so we do the proper.
By tomorrow, by tomorrow, I will let you know, Selectman Fleming, that you read all 9 articles that need to be written.
Thank you. I knew that was coming. Thank you.
So, All right. So any other comments or concerns we have with respect to the town meeting?
Just two quick
Yes.
comments. One, we're waiting for the figures from the state on the Community Preservation Act funds. So 13 and 14 may change based on exactly what comes in. If it comes in by the date of the meeting, that's very tight. And then I'm in contact with the petitioners about the last 3 articles. The petitioners for 18 and 19 are fine with them as they are. The petitioner on number 20 is working with the moderator. I suggested them, that was quite a long motion to read,
Yes.
and perhaps there'll be some modified version that stays to the essence of what they're trying to achieve. So we'll keep you up to date on that.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, item 6.3, OPEB or other post-employment benefit reports. In your packet is the OPEB report. Is, again, for those, this is a brief overview. I do sit on the OPEB committee at the moment. There are still 2 openings on the OPEB committee. They only meet probably 4 times a year, so your commitment, will not be that bad. But it is, again, a very important, OPEB is very important. It's the benefits that we must provide our employees once they retire. And so we need to fund it accordingly, and we need to have accounting for it accordingly. So, Madam Town Manager, I'll turn it over to you with respect to broad strokes on the report, please.
Yes, it's 26 pages, but I'm only going to ask you to look at 2. The first one is page 3. The heading says Section 1 Summary. We are required under the law to update this report. Last time it was done in 2012. We were actually asked to update it as of 2015. And seems like we're late to having get that done, but actually we're right on schedule. And the big takeaway from this one page is that the number of active members we have is about the same in the high 50s. Average age is stayed about the same in the high 40s. Average age of service of our employees about 12 years. But what has changed is the liability that we have over time. There are some factors working against us. The cost of health insurance going up significantly. The amount that they discount what we have to put aside, if we haven't pre-funded, it goes up by 4% a year. They look at health trend in the future, and they make assumptions on those, and that all rolls into the bottom line, which is our unfunded liability in 2012 was just over $4.1 million. Unfortunately, with the factors that are working against us, it's grown to where it's just over $6.8 million in 2015. And if you're ever at any type of Massachusetts meeting, and you have people ask you what your ARC is, the annual required contribution, in order to fund that $6.8 million, ideally we should be putting aside $739,936 a year. As you know, we haven't been able to do that, though we're working towards it. So that's one page that's kind of the highlight overall. And the second page I turn your attention to is page 7. And this is, again, an overview, but this overview is a little different. It looks at it from the perspective of if you are able to partially pre-fund it, meaning you're paying for it over time, you're slowly putting money aside, is one number. And if you're able to somehow reach into the piggy bank and find the money to put it up front, and then let it be invested in the trust and gain, interest and dividends, you don't have to put by as much. And that's the difference at the bottom of this page. If we were able to reach into our piggy bank and find just over $3.5 million over the years that it could grow, it would cover the liability that we need projected today. If we're not, and we're doing it on a pay-as-you-go basis, which has been what most communities do, that's where you see $6.9 million. we're making another contribution at the special town meeting of $100,000. And I think as long as we can continue to make them, that's the most important part. We're not much different than most communities in this case. I don't know that makes any of us feel any better, but as long as we can continue to do what the board has done and put away money as we can, maybe the laws for OPEB will change over time and what employees are eligible for. And as we put more money aside and it gains interest, we'll start to tip those scales, so.
And again, I never want to compare ourselves to most communities, but this one I will.
Yes.
Although these numbers are somewhat scary, that, again, compared to most communities, every community is having their struggles with respect to this. So before I open up to the board, I would just also say that we did have our OPEB meeting the other night, and we did select out of 3 management firms that came in from Bartholomew to Rockland Trust to RBC Wealth Management. We interviewed all 3 management firms, and the committee chose Bartholomew to currently manage the funds that we are putting into the OPEB. Bartholomew also manages the funds in our CPC, so there is some savings there when we're, again, in the amount that we're asking them to manage. So I would open up to the board for any comments.
Mr. Chairman, there isn't really much to talk about. The reality is that the demand growth is greater than the amount we're able to contribute. So with 56 employees, we're at 66.9. What is going to happen when we get a higher amount? So it actualizes both ways. The number of employees raises it, and the timeline raises it. The only thing we can do is continue to try and invest in it as we go, like we did this year with 100,000. Maybe at the annual, if everything goes well, maybe another 100,000, 200,000. That sounds like large numbers, but when you're dealing with a 6.9 number, 6.9 mil, and it's only going to grow, I understand it's a problem statewide. Our number is much smaller than some others. When you hear cities that have hundreds of millions of dollars of liability, it's kind of like, wow. So it's nothing to really say. We're just
At the moment, even though 100,000 is not our target share, for lack of a better word, I'd be thrilled to have $100,000 be put into
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure.
As a line item in both of our, I would be absolutely thrilled with that.
I think continuing to let the legislature know that it's a priority, that we address this, that they address this, so that it can change what people are eligible for in future years, that will help.
Absolutely. Selectman Doherty.
I have nothing on this.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, item 6.4, in front of us, we have a continuation of signed requests, and we actually have a new signed request from Mr. Fred Aldrich on 4 Prospect Street here in town. At the last meeting, we discussed having a speed study performed with respect to these requests in order to validate any changes that we were going to potentially make on these streets. So, Madam Town Manager, do we know the status of that?
I spoke with the police chief about that. He's going to get going on a speed study on both Prospect and Cider Mill, and I hope that we can bring a resolution back to you at the first meeting in December.
Okay. And again, for that, if, with the sign request, if we chose to approve the sign request with respect to lowering the speed limit, and we didn't do due diligence with respect to a speed study, then somebody could truly contest the posting of that sign and have justification to contest that. So we want to make sure we cross the Ts, dot the Is, and do it accordingly. So any other comments?
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, if we could extend a courtesy, I know there's some residents, I think this is the 3rd meeting they've shown up to look at this. Out of courtesy, if we could let them know a timeline as to when the chief is ready, so that they don't have to keep coming here sitting, well, I think you probably enjoy it, sitting here through these meetings.
I kind of like it.
But, out of a courtesy, coming down on a bad night, we're not able to act on it, that wouldn't be right, so. That's all.
I agree. So hopefully, again, we'll continue with the police chief and hopefully by December 1st.
The first meeting is the 6th of December.
First,
So that's our goal.
That's our goal. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. Item 6.5. Yeah, somewhere here. In front of us, we have a request from Samantha Williams and Jessica Perkins for a run for recovery. It's a 5K race that will take place on December 10th, 2016, starting at 10 a.m. And I believe it'll be starting at Nipmuc High School. So and we have all the proper signatures and approvals for that, where the police department, fire and EMS, and DPW have signed off accordingly on the request. Open it up to the board. Selectman Fleming.
Everything is in order, Mr. Chairman.
Secretary? Okay. Would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that the board authorize the road race Samantha Williams, Jessica Perkins, a run for recovery to be held on December 10th as stated within their application.
Second.
Please show that as unanimous action of the board. Thank you. Item 6.6, motion to appoint per diem paramedics. In front of us, we have memorandum from the fire chief, fire and EMS chief, Goodale, with respect to candidates. Let me pull it up here. Okay. Candidates, per diem paramedic candidates for the Upton Fire EMS Department. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, based upon the applications and documentation provided by the chief, I think it's all in order.
Okay. And there was also a request to waive the 15-day period, please. So I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that the board approve the appointment of per diem paramedics for Richard Bennett of Milford, Mass., Nicholas Roy of Worcester, Robert St. Martin of Mendon, and John Grudoff of Worcester, and that we waive the 15-day requirement.
Second the motion.
You show that as unanimous action of the board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would motion that the board approve the appointment of EMT position to Kevin Rook of Upton, Mass., and that we waive the 15-day requirement.
Second.
Please show that as unanimous action of the board. Thank you. Please be safe out there. That is all we have. That is all we have for under discussion items under new business. The town manager is currently handing out a draft copy of the proposed FY 17-18 budget calendar. Seems like this budget cycle just comes full circle. We don't have much time off. Once we approve the budget, then start right back into it again.
Yeah, kind of.
It is. Any comment that you would like to make on this?
Yes, I just wanted, this is, for those who've been on the board, this probably looks very similar, but I did make one change. I think it would be helpful for everyone if we started the process just a little bit earlier and had a little more time to be able to focus on that. So internally, I'm looking to start the process and sending out the various forms right before Thanksgiving so that people can turn them in a month later, right before Christmas. It'll give us a chance to enter in and get a number, a starting point by the end of the year, and I think that will just be helpful to all the boards getting into the budget process after that. So that's really the only change. Otherwise, the rest of the schedule is very much the same. And town meeting, if you're aching to fill out your calendar for May, is May 4th. First Thursday after the first Monday.
Okay.
You don't need to approve it. You know, we can certainly change it. It's just my suggestion. And it's mostly internally requiring me to get stuff out to everyone and the FinCom to start their process.
Okay, well, where we just saw this for the first time, I would ask my fellow board members if you don't have any questions currently, just to digest this. If you have any concerns with respect to the schedule, please get back to the town manager as soon as possible with the concerns. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So that's it under new businesses. We have correspondences. Before we go into executive session, Is there anybody in the audience that would like to be heard? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
General question.
If I could ask you
Rick
to...
McGuire.
Yes.
Of Whitney Lane.
Yes.
You were talking about the committee that's dealing with the unfunded pensions. This is a general question, and that's this. If you look at Illinois, there are over $100 billion in unfunded liabilities. New Jersey second. The state of Massachusetts is somewhere fourth or fifth. Here's the question. The liabilities that the state has incurred at the state level for unfunded pensions, can that trickle down to us? I mean, we're sitting here trying to deal with this issue of $3 million or $6 million, and we want to fund as we go, which I think is a great idea. But the state has a lot of employees, and they have a great unfunded liability. Could they come down and tax the citizenry here?
One way they could do it is to cover their cost of doing that is to eliminate either services or funding to the cities and towns. We're pretty much structured under a binding law as to how we fund the liabilities. So for the state to say, we've got this problem, we're going to shift it down to you, they'd have to reenact legislation, and I don't see that happening.
I wouldn't see that fast. That was just a question.
I think that's a good answer. To add to that, I would just say the actual pension liability, the state changed the formula, made it a little harder to get a pension a couple of years ago, and stretched out the funding timetable. So we're in Worcester County's pension plan, and I think with the schedule they're on, we should all be funded by 2040 for pensions. This is for retiree health benefits, which is a different issue. And in that case, there are many communities, as stated earlier, that are starting to put aside money, but sooner or later the number of retirees will grow, and the people replacing them also have health insurance. That's when it starts to get difficult. Upton didn't actually accept the law until 2005, so we have far fewer retirees eligible for health insurance than most communities do. We're in a, doesn't feel like it, but we're actually in a good place compared to most.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Yes.
Marcia Kreslowski, Whitney Lane.
Yes.
I've heard rumors, and then I sort of did some research and saw in a newspaper article that we might be losing you.
It's not official.
It is not official yet, but there is a possibility that we may be losing our town manager to the town of Wellesley. But again, it is not official yet.
So I guess I should hope congratulate you.
Please.
Please.
And if that happens, will we have an open discussion of the role?
We will identify the process. Again, once the steps, we will identify the process in which we feel as if it's best interest to move forward. So, thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, we have two executive sessions. First executive session, the board will enter an executive session of the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation and complaint against public officers and employees. We will adjourn out of that executive session to go into 10.2, executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Section number 6, to consider the purchase of real estate. The chair so declares that an open meeting may be detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body. We will adjourn out of 10.2, the second executive session, only for purposes of adjourning out of open session. Jim Brochu, aye.
Robert Fleming, aye.
Gary Dardy, aye.
We are in executive session. Thank you all.